Welcome to the first lesson of the leadership module. In this lesson, we will learn a little bit more about the concept of leadership, how leaders are described through literature, and lastly, we will examine the pros and cons of different leadership styles, all in the name of helping you understand what kind of leader you are now and the kind of leader you could be after reflecting upon your own strengths. By the end of the lesson, it is our hope that you can apply the concept learned through it into your own unique way of living. Now, to start our journey into the first lesson of our module, we must take a look into the definition of leadership. According to Ahmad Akhtaruzaman, Zahra, Ohri, and Ramakrishnan, leadership is a process by which one person influences the thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors of others. It is often said that when it comes to companies, business, and, in our case, organizations, the organization itself tends to have a unique personality of its own, often as a reflection or as a result of evolving around the personalities of their leaders. Obviously, every organization has a board or something similar that chooses the person who wants as a leader. We may think that the leader selected is going to have a personality that matches with which the organization has. What kind of personalities could those be? What are the traits that make a person a leader, and what type of leader can someone be? Those are some of the questions that we will try to answer throughout this lesson. Let's see some questions that invite a reflection. What do you think a leader is like? We all know examples of sports coaches that everyone talks about. When he or she was still playing, he or she always acted as a coach. That will be an example of acting as a leader before being one. When you think about the word leader, what name comes to your mind? Can you remember the first time you identified someone as leader? Did you feel comfortable with that? Did this leader encourage you or didn't? Do you see yourself as leader? I'm sure you do because you are in this program, but in what field do you think you can develop your leadership skill the best? Are leaders born or made? Or maybe both. Someone may be born with some leadership skills, but you can be sure that he or she will have to improve these skills, learning and practicing. Literature is extensive when it comes to reviewing what kind of traits are considered the most important for leaders to have. What makes a good leader? Has the vision of a good leader remained unchanged through time? Taking again the sports example, do you think the coaches used the same tools to motivate the team? Sure they don't. In the chapter written by the authors mentioned above, Investigation of the Impact of Leadership Styles Using the Data Mining Techniques, we can find an overview of this characterization. Let's find out how leaders have been described as up until now. Let's see the upper left box. In the 1940s, leaders were considered to show a series of personal traits like physique, intelligence, cognitive ability, appearance, fluency of speech, knowledge, ambition, personal adjustment, and emotional control. Let's go to the box below. After that, it is pointed out that the characteristics above mentioned can be enough, and that other factors must be added into the equation. Factors like situation, environmental settings, and relationship with the person's followers. Does this list seem more current? Yes, it does. Relationship with the person's followers. Are we talking about the beginning of social networks? No. Of course we aren't. But relationship with the environment of the members of the team began to be important. Let's continue with the upper right box. Later, it was believed that leaders' traits are to be categorized into three different but correlated dimensions: the personal, the social, and the work-related dimension. Do you see? 3 dimensions, but just one of them related to work. Leaders' life is important because they know that the personal side has a strong influence at work. Times change. Let's see the dimensions. If we talk about the personal dimension, the characteristics a leader has are energy, physical stamina, intelligence, knowledge, judgment, and decisiveness. From a social perspective, the characteristics are sociability, high interpersonal skills, cooperativeness, and diplomacy. Finally, in the work-related dimension, a leader typically shows the following traits: stubbornness in the face of hurdles, accountability in pursuing the goals, and mobility. Finally, let's go to the box below to see another way to divide a leader's characteristics. We can put them in 2 different types: basic traits and motivational traits. When it comes to the basic traits, a leader shows characteristics like emotional stability, dominance, enthusiasm, conscientiousness, social boldness, thought-mindedness, and self-assurance, and compulsiveness. On the other hand, the leader's motivational traits are high energy, intuitiveness, maturity, team orientation, empathy, and charisma. It is probable that this review falls short and that there is a lot more literature written about the vision through which leaders are seen and studied. Our goal isn't to determine who was right or wrong, who gives the most accurate description of how a leader should behave, or what personal, social, or motivational traits should have. Our aim is for you to finish this lesson knowing that, at some point in history, all these characteristics were considered essential to a leader's character, and that maybe all these visions show a common thread. In fact, let's do an exercise. Let's try to find those characteristics that are common to all. Those traits that showed up more than once during our review, to try and see if we can come up with a list of characteristics most attributed to leaders. Actually, let's go a step further and classify these traits according to the following criteria: cognitive abilities, emotional abilities, physical abilities, and social abilities. Under the cognitive abilities slot, we can find words like intelligence and knowledge repeated through the reviewed literature. Under the emotional abilities slot, we find emotional control and stability. Under the physical abilities, we can highlight energy as the most common physical trait described. And lastly, under the social abilities slot, we can add cooperativeness and team orientation as the words showing more than once. Now, we just must put it all together and come up with our own description of a leader's characteristic. A leader, and let's dare say a good leader, is someone energetic, intelligent, someone who possesses knowledge, and we add here knowledge of the subjects in which the group organization they lead delves in, someone that can control their emotions in the face of hurdle and show emotional stability, and someone capable of cooperation who has a team-driven mindset. Whoa, do you feel the last paragraph is your description? Don't worry if you don't. On the contrary, by your age, it is normal that you still have undeveloped skills. They are there, don't worry, but they need time and practice to show up. Let's see some questions that invite to reflection. Do you agree with this description? Do you agree with the 4 laws described? In a sports organization, which one do you think that will be more important? In other words, you had to pass a job interview, which one would you highlight? Is there a trait that you think should absolutely be a part of the final common description, but that we haven't left out? Maybe some skill related to the ability to assign tasks to the right person. Recall the person you thought about during the leadership description. Do they show any of these characteristics? Let's see the perfect coach. No names, please. Everyone has one. Do you see those characteristics in him or her? Which one do you miss? Do you have it? Let me say that in professional sports, one of the most appreciated characteristics is emotional control. As you may know, there's a lot of stress in games, and the control of the emotions, good or bad, make it possible to take the right decisions when the time comes. Now, I will tell you one personal experience. I've been basketball coach for a long time. In fact, I still am. When I started coaching, I used to lose control in certain moments of stress. Then, I realized that by this reaction, when the team needed me the most, I was mentally aware. So, I worked on it, trying to keep focused in solving problems more than wasting energy complaining of them. At work, if your team makes a mistake that brings you to a challenging situation, don't waste your time looking for someone to blame. Solve the problem side by side with your team, and when the work has been finished, find the moment to talk about the wrong process that brought you to the situation. Now that we have seen which are the most common characteristics a leader must have to be considered one, it is time to talk about the different types of leaders that there are. After all, no one person is exactly the same as other, and this may even lead us to the following statement. There will be as many types of leadership as people are in the world. However, just as we have arrived at a common thread of classification for the traits, experts have identified enough common aspects between leaders' behaviors to establish 5 types of leadership. As we just mentioned, according to Ahmad and colleagues, there are 5 types of leadership under which can classify leaders. Autocratic leaderships, laissez-faire leadership, participative leadership, transactional leadership, and transformational leadership. Let's take a look at all of them, starting by their definition and briefly explaining their pros and cons. First, we've got autocratic leadership, which can also be known as authoritarian leadership. In the autocratic leadership style, the decision-making process relies solely on the leader. That means that the team members have little to no input in the process, which means also that autocratic leaders don't usually take advice from other people and their decisions are taken according to their ideas and judgment. Pros. The decision-making process tends to be fast, as the decision relies on the leader. Autocratic leadership provides clarity on the organization's structure. Depending on the organization's needs, in terms of a structure and regulations, this leadership style can be the most effective. Let's see the cons. Negative sentiments among team members can be created as a direct result of an overbeing micromanaging tendency from the leader. Leaders that are autocratic aren't usually very flexible, and they are not open of hearing ideas from other people. These leadership styles does not promote creativity among team members. Let's review this style. It seems too much dictatorial, doesn't it? But what will someone need in a critical situation? A boat sinking, a fire. Is the leader going to schedule a reunion to find solutions? I hope he won't. So, in a moment that is need, a quick answer to a critical situation, this leadership may save lives or win matches. Second, there's laissez-faire leadership. Contrary to what happens in autocratic leadership, in the laissez-faire leadership, also known as delegative leadership, the decision-making process relies more on the team members because the leader encourages it that way, offering little guidance. This leadership style can only work if employees are highly competent, and that's why no supervision is required. Let's see the pros. If the team members are competent and responsible, this leadership style can be highly successful. Trust and communication are essential within a team, and this leadership style promotes both of them between team members. Delegative leadership boosts creativity. It encourages the growth of satisfaction of employees. Let's see now the cons. As the decisions rely almost completely on team members, this can lead to disagreements and the eventual internal division of the group. This leadership style makes it difficult for new team members to adapt and get accustomed to it. It can be challenging for team members to understand who is ultimately in charge and responsible for outcomes. This kind of leadership may work in organizations based on the creativity of its members, designers, and so on. It is very useful when we talk about a team of specialists in different areas. The leader points the common objective, and each member of the team develops their responsibility by their own. Don't forget to put a clear deadline. Creators are very bad managing time. Next, we've got participative leadership, which can also be known as democratic leadership. Participative leadership is like the previous style because the decision-making process relies a lot on the team's members, but not because they are in charge of it, but because they are provided with pertinent information on the issues and challenges faced by the organization so that they can be engaged into the process. Let's see the pros. In this leadership style, employees contribute in the decision-making process, and that, in turn, improves their commitment to the organization. Participative leadership encourages engagement, boosts creativity, and improves morale. Participative leadership also promotes a deep trust between leaders and employees. Let's see now the cons. The main drawback of this style is that since everyone's input is considered equally important and the entire group has to come to an agreement when making decisions, the decision-making process is slow. This leadership style might not be the best for team members who don't perform well in group settings. Due to the slow decision-making process, this leadership style can be inefficient and costly. This leadership is very useful when the team is preparing long or mid-term projects. By the time a team is working on strategies that will solve the day-to-day situation, it is very profitable to have the rest of the team involved. Moving to transactional leadership style. This style is characterized by controlling, organizing, and short-term planning. According to the authors, the motivation of the team members relies on whether they will be rewarded when they perform well or punished when their work does not meet the pre-established requirements. Let's see the pros. Transactional leadership encourages fairness among team members. This leadership style is characterized by establishing a simple and well-structured system. When positive rewards are involved, motivation runs high among the team members, and they are encouraged to complete their works efficiently and as error-free as possible. Let's see now the cons. As much as they can be motivated by rewards, this can also play against team members when they feel like their effort is constantly under a microscope. This pressure can lead to dismissing results. Transactional leadership discourages creativity, and leaders tend to miss the emotional needs of the team members. Since they are so focused on short short-term results, transactional leaders don't usually have long-term success. I'm sure you have a proper example of activities that are based on the future reward in case of succeeding. Seller companies with a salary related to the sales done, and so on and so on. The worst thing about this kind of leadership is that because of the lack of engagement of the members, there's a high rotation rate of them. Finally, the transformational leadership style. Leaders are described as visionary people and thoughtful thinkers, people who can inspire others. Among the characteristics most associated to this type of leadership are intellectual and motivational stimulation of their followers, idealized influence and consideration of each and every one of the team members, to whom they dedicate a considerable amount of time mentoring. So says Ahmad. Let's see the pros. Because of their own personalities and leadership style, transformational leaders encourage team members to be creative and come up with new ideas. Performance within an organization can be improved when team members are motivated by their leader, who inspires them to achieve things they didn't feel capable of before. This type of motivation can lead to increased productivity and engagement. Let's see now the cons. Transformational leadership focuses on change, and change can often be difficult to handle because it means stepping out of the comfort zone. That's also why transformational leadership needs each team member to agree with the leader's approach to building the organization. Despite its benefits, transformational leadership is a very hands-on approach, which can increase the pressure felt by the team members and lead to eventual burnout. This leadership tries to achieve objectives by changing on the teammates the way they focus their work, not just the way they do it. This kind of leadership doesn't have a middle term. Members are with the leader completely or they leave the team. If the leader fails in the transformation, the whole structure of the team falls. Let's see now some questions that invite reflection. What type of leadership do you think describes you the best? Don't worry if you don't have a clear idea of your type. The leadership style of one person is built with the experience of each organization in which he's been involved, and with each person who has been working with. Most of all, no one keeps the leadership style untouchable a long time. At least, no one should. Which leadership style do you think is best? You may prefer one above the others, but remember, each situation requires its own. None of them fits for all the organization the same. Can you think of some indicators that help us determine if a leadership style is better or worse than the other? For example, goal achievement rate, employee satisfaction, organization effectiveness. Can leadership styles be learned, or are we born with our own unchangeable way to lead? Sure that if you thought a leadership can be learned, probably you won't be in this program. Leaders have a seat indeed, but it depends on how they take care of it to see which kind of flower will bloom. Our own reflection on the matter is that deciding which leadership style is better than the other might not be a debate we are ready or sufficiently prepared for. Our aim with these descriptions is to raise awareness on the existence of these different styles and their various pros and cons, with the hope to broaden your understanding of your own leadership style. We have reached the end of our first lesson of leadership. It's important to do a quick recap of the topics we covered in this lesson. First, we studied the definition of leadership, to then give a brief overview of characteristics most commonly attributed to leaders. Reaching our own characterization based on the most common traits found through literature. After that, we followed a path through 5 different types of leadership, covering their description, their pros and their cons. To finalize this lesson, our own reflection on the matter of leadership is to be recalled. No leadership style is better than the other. They are simply different and effective in their own way. Our aim is to give you the tools to reflect upon the matter yourselves and to get you to know and improve your own abilities as a leader. We have reached the end of our first lesson on leadership. It's important to do a quick recap of the topics we covered in this lesson. First, we studied the definition of leadership to then give a brief overview of the characteristics most commonly attributed to leaders, reaching our own characterization based on the most common traits found through literature. After that, we followed a path through 5 different types of leadership, covering their description, their pros, and their cons. To finalize this lesson, our own reflection on the matter of leadership is to be recalled. No leadership style is better than the other. They are simply different and effective in their own way. Our aim is to give you the tools to reflect upon the matter yourselves and to get you to know and improve your own abilities as a leader.